Hi, welcome. On this video, I want to take a few minutes to respond by way of a force-free trainer out of the UK. Refers to himself as Glasgow dog trainer. His name's John McGuigan. Force-free trainer. He's on social media a lot, advocating, force-free, okay, training as the way forward. And again, I talk about, okay, the problems by way of approaching training as a learning based exercise and this issue of bribery when it comes to motivating dogs to respond in the middle of a relationship problem. Understand this is very, very common in the dog training world by way of force free trainers. Even the majority of balanced dog trainers will engage a relationship problem this way. I talk about how that sets in motion a counterfeit picture of change within the framework of response for many, many dogs and owners. This is why it is that dogs can look fantastic in the training environment as they're responding for or motivated to respond for something they want, such as a treat. They'll do a great sit, a great down, a great come, a great stay. You get your certificate, only to discover you feel like a hamster spinning in the wheel when the relationship actually doesn't get any better. And again, understand this is where the blame shifting happens. In fact, it's normalized. Okay, seems normal because it happens so much by way of trainers who engage a relationship problem this way. Versus, again, what I show training is once the relationship problem is underway, it follows a path of a intervention and the solution by way of a intentional interaction based method which brings influence and control into a process the right way, at the right level, by way of changing perception of dogs and diminishment of unwanted behavioral issues. And again, this is why, again, when you go on these trainers' websites, okay, this is why, again, when you look at their video content, they either look like infomercials, because again, you're not going to get either they're being very kind of intentional with how they're marketing, okay, not showing transparency that way. Or with McGuigan, what you see is he actually does come out in the open by way of attempting to showcase bribery. And again, you'll see the result. Okay, you'll see dogs, lunging and going, and just, because understand this is what I talk about, beyond appearances, the problem by way of trainers who motivate dogs to respond this way. But here in this video, I'm going to play some of it. People will have kind of a sense of, okay, maybe treats are a problem. And here, trainers such as McGuigan do encounter this objection, this question from those who follow him. Here it says, when can I stop using treats when training my dog? Okay, I'll talk about that. I'll even talk about this issue about, through association. Okay, once you engage this way, even in fact, you don't even have to have a overt motivator present. You just have to create that association through like signing a type of social contract. It still sets up the same type of problem, the same type of counterfeit picture. What you need to consider is your role, in terms of defining the process properly and bringing influence and control the right way. Okay, to make sure truly the dog is perceiving you properly. Not just that, in terms of making sure that the relationship's actually going to get better. So I'm going to play some of this video again to talk about this issue because I understand this is very common in the dog training world. But again, understand that this is also very attractive, okay, for people who have an emotional connection or even a high emotional connection with their dog, because it sets up the hope, it's false hope, that you can trust appearances that way. Again, I show it just like, again, that's why I use the parenting example so often to help, kind of drive the point home by way if you were to do what these trainers are doing, which they are doing, by way of a parent and a selfish child, and simply jumping in that way, simply, in a very superficial way, motivating, good responses. So yes, you could get good responses for, say, a selfish child to pick up the toys for a brand new Xbox game, but it doesn't mean those responses can be trusted, that the child's attitude's actually getting better if you're not connecting dots by way of the parenting role properly. Just like, again, talk about, a demand. This is why, again, when you switch it up and, it's like pick up your toys because you're the parent, okay, and you bring the child under parental influence, You gotta see the real deal, especially if the child's selfish. Likely you're gonna get kickback versus you'll pick up your toys and here's a brand new Xbox game. You're gonna child be highly motivated. But again, the problem, the issue lies in the current state of the relationship. Understand that that's what these trainers don't connect. They don't connect the dots that way. They'll talk about behavioral issues, but they don't even mention about, classify it as a relationship problem. And so again, this is why people, dog owners, really are left out, holding the bag, so to speak. Very, very common to be left still experiencing a unresolved relationship problem. So again, you'll play some of this video to see how McGuigan, okay, how he responds when confronted with, when can I stop using treats to train my dog?
Hi everyone, so I wanted to talk a little bit about when can I stop the treats. This is a question that comes up a lot.
Sure.
The question came up yesterday about using a clicker in relation to a post I'd put up, and the person had said when I click, the dog is expecting the treat. Now that's right. Okay, that's a contract with clicker training.
So it's not about contract, right? But see, understand, you'll talk about, okay, that's why you talk about things such as, what's called charge in the clicker, creating an association to, motivators such as, a treat. But again, you have to consider, okay, you're jumping in at the point that you're experiencing a relationship problem. So the question you have to ask, though, is it about response that way? Can those responses can be trusted? And then the criteria, what's the criteria that trainers are using to even assess the motives that underpin those responses? Well, they're not, okay, because those core ingredients, influence and control, are not part of the equation. That's why when you get a dog on the leash and you bring a dog under intentional control, they'll go into a level of challenge. Especially, again, you have to line up to intent. Make sure the dog understands intent by way, again, of a clarity through how you're interacting. But you'll see that contrast. Understand, you don't have to waste don't have to waste weeks and months and discover at the end you're left with a counterfeit picture change at the response level. You can see that contrast right away in real time. You should ask the question, well, why is it that dog looks fantastic, off leash and moving around for treats, but you get a dog, under intentional control on the leash and they're going crazy. And then connect that at the end. You'll see it. It'll all start to make sense. I talk about that. So understand that, yeah, sure, he's going to be challenged with that because people have a little common sense to say, well, something, maybe he's not quite right here. Well, you're right, it's not right.
So we click, and it should be click and reinforce. We just say click and treat to make it a little bit kind of...
So they use words, I understand, I'm going to stop a lot, like reinforce. What are you reinforcing? A response. Right, but here's what all these trainers do too, and pay attention. Even balanced dog trainers do this. They try to frame up these superficial responses to try to firm them up. They'll switch it out. They'll use that word change of behavior. It doesn't even apply. It doesn't even apply. Those are just superficial responses. How are they even establishing that those responses are meaningful or the perceptions are changing? They're not. Okay, it'd be the same way as me, say, in a very superficial way, motivating a selfish child to pick up their toys for a brand new Xbox game, that I start using that word behavior to try to lead or mislead a parent into believing that those responses can be trusted. So understand the language is important here, because you hear a lot of these trainers do it, but then they won't answer other questions as to, just like I'm saying, is how are you establishing that those responses are what they are, right? They just say, well, just trust the process. Well, that's ridiculous. I mean, just consider, is the process really just about a sit down, come and stay that way? Like, doesn't even make sense. And so I talk about interaction based. I talk about not motivating dogs that way because that's problematic. Well, then the question is, well, what do you use as a motivator? Well, the relationship's the motivator. Okay, you want to think different, just like a parent-child relationship. It's the same thing. You don't go around thinking, how can I motivate this child? No, it's just like sometimes it's like pick up your toys. Just you have to think, apply common sense here.
And a more pithy and snappy so that we remember it. It should actually be click and reinforce. And we use treats a lot, food reinforcers for that, a lot when we're doing clicker training, for a variety of reasons, okay? So the person had asked, when I click, the dog expects the treat. That's right, okay? Clicker is a training tool to teach the dog how to do a behaviour.
Say behavior, there's that word. That's a response, right? But they put that word in there to try to, that's what it is. This is like a shell game here with these trainers. And they all do it. I understand the majority do it. And so it doesn't even, because it's your starting point. Those core ingredients are not brought in by way of a intentional interaction-based method. It's not a power play. These trainers aren't doing it that way. Okay, in a very superficial way, and this is where bribery comes into the equation. Like, when does bribery become bribery? Well, bribery becomes bribery when you don't even, consider the current state of the relationship. You're not connecting dots properly at all. You're just jumping in. No critical thinking required. Right? But look around the dog training world and just see how common it is for people to be left, with a, counterfeit picture of change. Very common.
Once the dog knows how to do the behaviour, okay, and is reaching a certain level of fluency, okay, so if you ask for the behaviour, you cue the behaviour, you get...
So you keep saying it's just response. So absolutely you can get a dog to sit. Even the context of focus. Even focus itself, you have to put in context. I think of a parent example, a child is going to a parent because they get their ice cream, they get what they want, within the permissive parenting dynamic. Think about the context of motivation and focus, okay? Within the framework, within the dynamic of the permissive parenting style. See, that's the problem here. There's no depth. I understand these trainers do not connect dots. And so when this doesn't frame up properly, well, something wrong with the dog, give the dog more time. All the excuses start to happen. And people will, really go along with this even when they're failing because they're highly invested emotionally. And these trainers are taking advantage of that. I mean, they are. It's so easy to do.
Good reliability, over 90%. Okay, now, at that point...
Reliability of what? Just a response based on bribery.
We're starting to get to the stage where we don't need to use a clicker anymore, but that doesn't mean that we don't use reinforcement to maintain the behaviour.
So you got to maintain the bribery, right? I mean, think about why even service dog training, why it all falls to pieces. So many of these service dogs are out there, they're attached to owners, but in a possessive way. But when it comes down to it, you'll see the focus. Again, I do service dog training. I go through a sequence, but the context of focus the right way. So when you don't have the right focus, just like the selfish child, right? Everything falls to pieces, especially with certain tasks that are specific to needing a certain, the right focus. So just think about what I'm saying. You see these service dogs out in certain areas that cannot pick up an object to perform a task, right? That's what happens. If you pay attention, you'll understand. You start to see it.
All right. And there's lots of nuance in this. I'm going to cover nuances in another video. Now, one of the suggestions that had come up on the post was the person had said, yeah, but what you do is you start intermittently reinforcing the behaviour. So
you talk about behaviour, right? It's a response. Dogs still hold control. Trust me, it's like bribery. And then you talk about fading it out. Well, then that's the problem. Trying to get rid of the motivation. But then, see, that's the thing. We're thinking about that. It's like that's why a lot of these people have these treat bags. And it's like a crutch. They never get rid of it because relationship change the right way hasn't actually happened. Because the dog, it's not even the right type of focus because they haven't engaged the right way. Right, influence and control are not part of the equation. So everything has not come together by way, again, talk about the relationship glue that holds it all together. Well, it's through the right process. So all to say, again, this is a great example, okay, when, people will put out a, question as to, when can I get rid of the treats? Well, basically like never, because you're bribing the dog. But again, my encouragement, anyone, looking around the dog training world, understand this is so typical. This is so common when confronted. These trainers can't even respond even to what I'm saying. I haven't, on all the years, I haven't had a single expert or any of these trainers respond specifically to the information I'm putting out. Because it can't, okay? I mean, that's the thing. They're just hoping that people don't question any of it. So my encouragement, if you're a dog owner, you should question all of it. Okay, because you have the one, you and your dog have the most to lose. These trainers, they just keep moving on. because blame shifting on the dogs has become normalized in the dog training world because so many of these trainers are doing this. So again, check my website. Lots of great information. If you have questions, contact me. I have options, but again, I don't market the same way. I tell it the way it is. And the dog training world is an absolute train wreck for a reason. Thanks for watching.